And, hello, there I am. Good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. When you bring me up, bring the music down a little bit. Then let it fade out. We're going to nail this. One of these days, we are going to nail this, you and I. So whenever you turn my microphone on, also bring that music down just a bit. Then it's cool. Then it's cool. You can let it fade out from there. Hi, good morning. Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. I got this new chair over here, which I appreciate. John Colson, the Grandmaster here at Press Box. I was struggling. My back did not like doing the bar stool thing. I'm a man of a certain age, and the bar stool was just not working for me for doing the show. So I got this nice new chair, and it's great. I love it. I don't know if I'm in the shot the right way. I don't know if I'm in the spot where I need to be. I don't know if I'm good.
You're looking good.
All right, you're looking good. I'm a big fan of this chair. I enjoy it a great deal. I know nobody else cares, but it's big news in my life, so we're going to go with that. You know what else is big news in my life? The Orioles are back within a game of a playoff spot, and technically they're tied in the loss column. So they control their destiny. They have controlled their destiny because they have games in front of them with the Rays with the Blue Jays still. So they actually have controlled their destiny for some time. But they really control their destiny because they're tied in the loss column with the Mariners now for the final playoff spot in the American League after they defeated the Blue Jays last night. Game that got hairy there for a second in the end. I know we've all kind of made it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal if they traded away Jorge Lopez, but for what it's worth, that is one less weapon that they have in late-game situations, and they weren't replacing him with another weapon in late-game situations. As much as we all like Cionel Perez and Dylan Tate and Felix Bautista, on a night like last night where Jordan Lyles, by his standards, again, by other Orioles starter standards, he had a phenomenal start that went deep into the game. But by Jordan Lyles' standards, he had a short start. So when he was pulled and you had to turn to the bullpen to work you through, you were asking a lot. You were asking that group to go a long way. And Joey Crable ended up being put in the situation in the eighth inning, and he was clearly not ready for prime time. Very clearly not a spot that Joey Crable was ready for. I get it. There was a matchup advantage. I understand why they went to Joey Crable given the lefties that were coming up. But it does make the back end of your bullpen a little bit weaker. And again, I was not up in arms about trading away Jorge Lopez. I understood the thought process. But there's no doubt it's hurting you. It's hurting you. A night like last night was the argument for the people that are just mad about the idea of trading away anything. Even if you can make it make bigger baseball sense, you can't avoid the fact that it hurts your team in the moment. Thankfully, it didn't hurt them to the extent that they lost. Felix Bautista has looked a bit shaky since moving into the ninth inning role, but he's gotten the job done.
Right, so I mean, if this is shaky,
understood, yeah. But it's got to end here, right? Like it's got to get solidified. The nice thing about last night, of course, the bat's coming alive. Austin Hayes getting the GCR bump, fresh off his appearance on Glenn Clark Radio. Back in the lineup, going deep. Love that. Lots of home runs last night. Ramon Urias back in the home run category. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to be telling you more about a new partner of ours here at Glenn Clark Radio called Swagger. And Swagger is a very fun game that makes you feel, again, it makes you feel like you're betting even though you can't still bet on your phone. Like, we've talked about this a lot. You still can't bet on your phone. Still can't bet on your computer in the state of Maryland. But Swagger allows you to play player props and make you feel like you're betting. So I bought a $5 ticket on Swagger last night, and it included Adley Rutschman getting 2 or more total bases. And I don't know why I'm an idiot. Like, I know that walks don't count as total bases, but for some reason last night, I think just because I was caught up in the moment, I was excited about winning. I was so excited. I was like, oh, hell yeah. 2 walks, baby. That's 2 total bases. And I'm like, oh, right. Right. They only count hits for total bases. Damn it. So I was not a bit.
That's a good bet, though. Typically, most nights.
Yeah, a lot of nights. Well, I mean, he continued his I think he's 15 of his last 16 games he's been on base at least twice.
Wow.
Yeah. Not bad. Not bad. The Orioles get the win in the series opener against the Blue Jays. Everybody is getting into fights with one of the Blue Jays broadcasters or part of their broadcast team, I guess. His name Mike Wilner. He's a columnist and a radio personality in Toronto. and everybody's fighting with him. You can ignore this. Anyone who's trying to be Skip Bayless, just ignore. Just ignore. They offer nothing to society. Stop. One day down the road, we can do an autopsy of how badly Skip Bayless screwed up sports media because it made everybody else believe that's what they were supposed to do. In fairness, Skip Bayless, it was a type of radio talk show host that begat Skip Bayless once upon a time. Your average radio talk show host was just as much of a blowhard. The only thing is, I think most of them actually believed some of the stuff they were saying, and it was less make-believe. It was less scripted. It was, I believe it, so I'll be a blowhard about it. But that concept begat Skip Bayless, which is now begatting everyone who works in this business, everyone who should otherwise be some sort of legitimate journalist or legitimate media entity to feel as though they too should just say nonsensical things whenever they want to say nonsensical things and say, oh, what, you mad? Are you mad? Are you mad? Well, look at my engagement numbers. It's just nonsense. It's just utter nonsense. Ignore it. Ignore it. Orioles won. That's what matters. Orioles are within a game of a playoff spot. That's what matters. Not going to be easy tonight. It's Alek Manoah's on the mound for Toronto. The Orioles counter with Kyle Bradish, and you hope for the best. You hope for the best in Game 2 of this 3-game set coming up tonight in Baltimore. But a lovely evening at the ballpark. I do just bear with me for a second, because a lot of people are talking about. We've talked about the disappointment that it feels like at some point the Orioles should be calling up Gunnar Henderson. It feels like at some point they should be calling up Kyle Stowers. And apparently the number is floating around that 45 days is now the time period with which to avoid losing your rookie status. My buddy Josh Soroka said, rookie eligibility, definition. A player shall be considered a rookie unless he has exceeded any of the following thresholds in a previous season: 130 at-bats or 50 innings pitched in the major leagues, or 45 total days on an active major league roster during the championship season. So, as of yesterday, Josh said, this is Josh, of course, from Section 336. Love Josh. He's a friend of ours and I've been a supporter for a long time. Last game is October 5th, so that would mean we have 58 days left, assuming no postseason. So maybe we see the appropriate call-ups in 14 days. I don't know. I don't know. I will. The point that I'm going to make, and it goes back to what Stan said last week about, hey, words are great. And what Mike Elias said on Wednesday of last week was tremendous. It's lift off from here. We're going to sign players in the offseason. But those words are only as valuable as the actions that follow it. And what I would say about not seeing guys here that we think, there's a twofold issue here. The first being, it has been abundantly clear for some time that Mike Elias will make decisions not based on when the major league team needed something, but based on when he believed that a prospect had graduated to get that opportunity. So it is possible that for certain guys, Mike Elias still says, I don't believe they graduated. That's possible. It's also possible it has something to do with manipulating still the control that you're going to have over them. It's extraordinarily possible that that's still part of the conversation. And that goes back to a fundamental flaw that I spoke about a lot. I know Paul Valley and I talked about it a lot, and Paul Valley now talks about it a lot on Twitter, which is if a player is so good that you're worried about how much control you have over them, you should have bought out their arbitration years anyway. If what you're worried about with a Gunnar Henderson or a Kyle Stowers is they're going to be so good that you need that extra year of control, then you should have been buying out those arbitration years to keep them beyond the time period that you have them under control. And if you're still playing these games when a major league team is in a playoff race and could use a little bit of assistance, and you're still considering how much control you have over them, the message that I worry that it sends to your fan base is that you're not going to change. is that you're not going to be the team that buys out arbitration years, that you're not going to be the team that aggressively makes sure you keep your assets longer than when you would have them based on their rookie contract. That's the concern here. And I'm projecting a little bit because, for example, I don't know that it's the reason that Gunnar Henderson isn't here. Their opinion might be, we had a plan for Gunnar Henderson, and no matter what's going on at the major league level, we are going to stick to the plan with Gunnar Henderson. That might be the opinion that Mike Elias holds. But it is reasonable to think that control has something to do with it. It's reasonable to think that it might have something to do with it. And if it does, that's a bigger problem because the Orioles doing things the right way and building a sustainable winner have to be the organization that is willing to buy out arbitration years to keep their players around. They must become that team. They cannot be the team. I still get this. I wrote a lovely column about watching Adley Rutschman. I said I'm giving myself credit. Boy, what a great column that was.
It was lovely, though.
Thank you, Griffin. I appreciate that. I wrote this column, and it was just sort of effusive towards Adley Rutschman and how great it's been to watch him become the superstar we were told he was going to be right in front of our eyes. And it got shared out on Facebook, and the first comment back, because I'm telling you, as many of you that want to believe that everybody should be on board, these fans still exist. The first comment back, he'll be a Yankee in 6 years. And I get it. I mean, I do. I understand. I can't be mad at who. I don't even remember who it was. But I can't be mad at him. I can't be angry. That's what they're saying. Because that's the history of the Orioles. The history of the Orioles suggests that's what they're going to do. They're either going to let him walk for nothing, or they're going to get to a point they're just going to trade him too. I understand why that person feels that way. I want to believe that's not going to be the case. But that requires me to see examples of the Orioles saying, no, that's not who we are anymore, or it's not who we're going to be. We're going to be a healthy, sustainable franchise. To do that, you've got to show that you don't need to manipulate control over a player because you know damn well that if they're that good, you can buy them out of their arbitration years. So it is concerning. I'm not going to say frustrating because I don't know that's the reason yet. Until I know with certainty that that's the reason. Until the math is done that says, boy, they really did call up Gunnar Henderson literally the day by which they could protect another year of team control. Until I see something like that, I can't say it with certainty. But it is concerning because in getting people to get on board, you've got to show you're going to do these things. That's how you create a healthy, sustainable franchise moving forward. If you're just going to be the team that consistently doesn't spend money, you can have neat moments, you can have fun stories, but you cannot create a healthy, sustainable franchise. No one's saying you've got to go out and spend $300 million on every player that comes up. Clearly, they're miserable in Detroit about the money that they spent on Javier Baez. I'm on board with doing what you did to lay the foundation and get your own talent within the system. Drafting and developing should always be the priority for every franchise throughout baseball. But keeping that talent has to be a part of that equation. And that doesn't mean giving $400 million to 32-year-old players. But keeping them around, using the system as it's set up to benefit you. The arbitration system benefits the team because it allows them to go back and negotiate with players and say, well, you're going to make a little bit of money, but you could make more. And it might not even be their real market value should they be available on the free market. But they can't get on the free market because of the control you have over them. So negotiating with them when they have no leverage is the best possible thing you can do. The system is set up to benefit the teams. Seems pretty simple. Take advantage of it. And show us that you're going to take advantage of it. Let us know this is who you're going to be. And continuing to try to manipulate control, it does the exact opposite. It does the exact opposite of making us feel that comfortable. And also, I'm glad Rita brought this up. Rita and I had a conversation on the radio show on Sunday about Rougned Odor. I get there's been a loud frustration about Rougned Odor. I am not with your opinion about Rougned Odor when you say he shouldn't be on the team. It is abundantly clear, and if you listened to Austin Hayes talking about him yesterday, you heard it again. It is abundantly clear that whatever he's doing on the field, Rougned Odor is playing a role within this clubhouse that is significant. Now, that doesn't mean he should be extended. It doesn't mean that he should be part of the plans long term. It means that for this team, Rougned Odor is playing a role as a veteran, as a leader, as someone who matters for this group. So, should he be playing every day? Nope. But is there a spot on this roster that I think he should hold? Yes. I think the value of that cannot be completely written off. If you care about the results, if you care about whether or not the team gets into the playoffs. If you don't care about that, and the argument is the Orioles have kind of said they don't, but if you're a fan who doesn't care because it's not about this season, it's about future seasons, then I can certainly understand why you'd say, well, the hell with Rougned Odor. Any at-bat he gets is an at-bat someone else could be getting for building towards the future. But it is abundantly clear in watching this team that they take cues from Rougned Odor, that he has value in that way. That doesn't mean I think he should be back next year. I think they should try to find somebody else that can be that guy. We talked to Austin Hayes about kind of whether he was ready to move into that leadership role for Trey Mancini. He was like, nah, dude. He's up on all that. And he's, at this point, kind of the elder statesman of the guys that have been here. Rougned Odor is an elder statesman within baseball. And that matters. One of the people that responded to what Rita said, the point is well taken. Should Brett Phillips be on this team? No. No, there is no justification for Brett Phillips being on this roster at all. But Rougned Odor, I get it. If you've watched this team, if you've seen how these players respond to him and how they react, you should probably understand a little bit more as to why it wouldn't make sense to DFA him. It wouldn't make sense to get rid of him. Again, don't see why it is that he needs to be in the lineup every day. He doesn't bring anything as either an offensive or a defensive player. Although, to be fair, it's not... Labeling a butcher would be incorrect. He's not a high-level defensive player, but he is a helpful piece. He can play the position. He's capable of playing it. That alone, not enough to be in the lineup every day, or even necessarily frequently. But I understand why it is that he's got a spot on the team. It's because of what he does for everyone else in the clubhouse, and that matters. Brian Powell, I will get in touch with you about donations, too. Trust me, I'm going to talk about Serena Williams. I would love if this show could just be Serena Williams all day, but that's not reality. We do a show about Baltimore sports. I will get to Serena Williams coming up here in a bit. Jim Miller is going to join us in a second. Former NFL quarterback, now, of course, with Sirius XM NFL Radio. He's coming to Baltimore today to do their training camp preview from Ravens camp. Later on in the show, we are going to catch up with Ryan Ripken, of course, the son of one Cal Ripken. You've heard of him. And Ryan just announced his own retirement from his pro baseball career. As he had been grinding, trying to make his way through, he decided that he was going to move on and likely make a transition. You know, he started launching social media. I think he's got some interest in media. We're going to talk to Ryan Ripken about all of that. Of course, Gilman's own Ryan Ripken. And also this morning, Jason Reid from ESPN and Anscape. He has a new book out. It's called The Rise of the Black Quarterback. Includes a chapter about Lamar Jackson. Of course, makes sense. Can't be surprised by that. Jason Reid will check in with us. And it's Tuesday. That means coming up at 11:40 a.m., we will bring you Simply the Bets. Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. We do Simply the Bets Tuesdays at 11:40. Do Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday at 11:40. Again, it's all brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. We'll have Simply the Bets for you coming up at 11:40 this morning. So that's all on the way. Should we take a break? Okay. Well, you tell me. You're the producer of the show. Yes, we'll take a break. Jim Miller's scheduled to join us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Visit Howard County presents the 2022 Major League Quidditch Championship, a Harry Potter-inspired, real-life, full-contact, mixed-gender, 12-team Quidditch tournament happening at Troy Park in Elkridge, August 20th through the 22nd. For tickets and more information, go to visithowardcounty.com. Maryland, be open for it.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
The 2022 baseball season is in full swing, and the future is brighter than ever for your Baltimore Orioles. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
And together we bring you the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon with everything you need to know about the Orioles and baseball as a whole. From veterans like Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes, and Ryan Mountcastle,
to young stars like Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez, and DL Hall.
We've got you covered for every game, every pitch,
and every debut.
You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So join us live on the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Summer is in full swing, and so is the summer seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash fried pork belly with their popular Korean No. 2 sauce. And try their South Carolina barbecue chicken, or back by popular demand, the lobster roll with grilled corn. Also try the irresistible crab and lobster fries, or the very berry salad with chicken. And for dessert, the Cracker Jack sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jacks. This menu will be gone. Find out more and get your order in at glorydaysgrill.com. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
It's statistically proven that the show sounds better if you're not wearing pants. Like me, right now. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on GCR. It is a Tuesday edition of the program. It's also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. It's an interesting thought from Chris. I honestly believe Orioles players will be more upset over an Odor DFA than they were over Mancini being traded. I mean, I don't know. I have no basis for comparison on those two things. I couldn't possibly tell you which one would have them more up in arms. But I get it. I get it, and that's why I'm saying the argument that you make, at least a Mancini trade, you could say is probably good for the organization, whereas a DFA of Odor, you're just doing for the sake of doing it.
We had you for this is Glenn Clark Radio.
I am
different show.
all good.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
All good. I think that there would be it would cause unnecessarily problems. I think that part is correct. I think that part is true. All right. Joining us now here on GCR before he heads out to Ravens camp this afternoon, where they will be for their training camp tour on Sirius XM's NFL radio. He is former NFL quarterback and a longtime friend of ours, Mr. Jim Miller, with us on GCR. Jim, it's Glenn and Griffin. Welcome to Baltimore, my friend. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
You bet, Glenn. Griffin, good to be with you guys.
Everything is, it's great to chat with you. Everything that's so unique about going to Ravens camp, I imagine like the storylines for you guys are related to just having the players back, I guess with the exception of rookie Tyler Linderbaum, who won't be out there, but it's such a different feel for this team going into this year because they actually have their players on the field, and if they can stay relatively healthy, I would think the Ravens would be very dangerous this season.
Yeah, I would think so too. I thought they played it all the way to the end last year, and they were on probably their fourth and fifth stringers when it was all said and done. And they got a new defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, and I think they'll be fine there since he's been there before and they understand what they want to do defensively. But yeah, the Frontier starters are big time players. I picked this team to go to the Super Bowl a year ago. I thought they were that strong of a football team, and then the injury bug started to hit this football team.
So I guess let's go back to one thing. It looks like this team wants to replicate what they did in 2019 and being dominant on the ground and run. They've signed about 100 running backs this offseason. They stuck it out with Greg Roman. They did not look to upgrade at all at wide receiver, clearly. It appears as though they want to go back to that success. I guess it's a twofold question. One, is it possible to replicate what they did in 2019? And can that be done to move past, to break through, and compete to win a Super Bowl at this point in the NFL, Jim?
Yeah, I think it can. They were 6th overall in the NFL last year offensively, and that's with essentially their backup quarterback, and they're in a makeshift offensive line, and like you said, a decimated running back position. I do agree with you. I do think they'll go back to 12 and 13 personnel, just looking at their draft. When you draft Charlie Kolar, I really like him out of Iowa State, and likely out of Coastal Carolina is sneaky good in the pass game. And then you got great blockers like Nick Boyle and Andrews. His career speaks for itself. So, yeah, I do think, Lamar did win the MVP with that style of football, and I think they're going to go back to it and hopefully be better settled defensively where they can make some stops. That was very un-Raven-like defensively when you finished 25th in the NFL in total defense.
We'll get back to that in a second, Jim. If they do that, are you at all worried? I mentioned they didn't really look to upgrade the wide receiver position. They have very little experience. They have very little depth at wide receiver. And you mentioned Charlie Kolar, Isaiah Likely, the tight ends they brought in, who can be used a little bit more out wide, but there's still very little there. Are you at all concerned about their lack of depth and experience at wide receiver, even if we think they're going to try to run the ball more?
No, I think they still have speed there. Just because Hollywood Brown's gone, they still got speed on the outside. From what I see. And it's really about the play-action game, if anything. I mean, Lamar, even though those are young receivers, if the run game's working, I think the way they expect it to work, you just get a lot more – you get bigger windows when you run the ball that effectively. There's bigger windows to throw to. Things will clear up for Lamar Jackson. And, of course, he's got to be better. He's got to be a better pocket passer. Last year they were – really espousing now we need more explosive plays, which was true. They going into last year, they were not a very explosive passing team. They were a little better last year, but that's got to improve. And it comes off of the play action passes where you get your explosive plays. And I would think the windows will be bigger where maybe Lamar will have some opportunities for that.
Jim Miller is with us here on GCR tonight, 5 to 7. The training camp tour brings he and Pat Kerwin to Baltimore, Sirius XM's NFL radio. Jim, let's have the Lamar conversation, right? You referenced needing to be better. The big thing that jumps off the page was what happened when everybody went cover zero last year. Was that the type of thing that was going to be exposed because the Ravens couldn't run the ball? And if they can, run the ball, teams can't just do that. They can't just try to replicate what they did. How much of it was on Lamar that needs to improve? Clearly, after playing brilliantly for the first, stretch of the season, those last 4 games we saw before he got hurt, probably the worst that he's played in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he definitely has to play smarter. He's got to protect his body a little more at times. It kind of reminds me remember the off the field thing when he got in trouble for the jet ski incident. I think he's just got to be smarter at taking care of his body, whether it's sliding, whether it's getting out of bounds. I don't think anybody questions his toughness, with the amount of carries that he has, but I think he's just got to be coached a little bit more to do the right thing, especially going into a contract year for him. But yeah, I think overall, offensively, he's got to get more polished in his pass scheme. I think they're working on that, but that's just the style of offense right now. This is what they chose to do. This is the type of offense where he was the league MVP, and he thrived in it. And he's still a young quarterback. At some point in his NFL career, he is going to start to slow down. And I think that's when quarterbacks really start to get better pocket habits from that standpoint. But just learning the game, getting better mechanics, footwork, those are all things that he can work on, and I think he is. I do think Lamar loves football. I really do, and I think his teammates love and respect him as well for his approach, and they'll play for him. But this is their style of offense right now, and I think it'll expand and continue to expand as his career moves along.
I think there's no doubt about that. Jim, to me, the interesting part is that, Lamar gets criticized for how much he runs, whereas it seemed like at times last year the biggest problem was his reluctance to run. You allude to Lamar, for the most part in his career, has been unbelievably good, part of which is because he's so bloody elusive. It's impossible to track him down from behind. For overwhelmingly, he's avoided the hits downfield. Overwhelmingly, and again, as we have the data that, running quarterbacks aren't actually at more risk than passing quarterbacks are because, as we saw, when Lamar got hurt, he was in the pocket. It's when you don't know that it's coming that those hits come. It's odd to me because it seemed like he has almost been impacted by the outside noise and has said, well, I don't want to run the ball as much because people think it limits me as a quarterback, where there were many times a year ago where I'm watching plays unfold and saying, dude, go! You're Lamar Jackson. Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's just that. I agree with everything you said there, but I don't think it's just that. I mean, Baltimore was 31st in the league at giving up sacks.
Right. Oh, yes. So it was a
mess.
Yep.
Those are still hits on Lamar Jackson, and they do add up over time. And so that's why just play smarter. Granted, he's an elusive guy, and weigh the risks or rewards, when to take off, or how about just throwing the ball away? Just throw it away, live to play another down. Don't take that hit. I thought Josh Allen has gotten a lot better at that. Josh, I thought, was much like Lamar at times when he runs. He is careless with his body, and you look at and Josh is a bigger guy, but look at bigger quarterbacks that have just got beaten down. Andrew Luck is 250 pounds. He's retired from football. Cam Newton is 250 pounds. He's not even signed with anybody yet because he's so banged up. So, those things matter, and I just think he can be smarter from that standpoint. Don't take the sacks. As elusive as he is, sometimes just throw the ball away, live to play another down. And again, I think that's growth as a quarterback. He can't be Superman every single play where he's just going to, go from his suit and Clark Kent into Superman and make a play when maybe a play's not there to be made, quite frankly.
I get it. I get it. Obviously, you can't force it. You can't try to do too much. Jim, just to move on from the Lamar conversation, are you at the outside noise, of course, is related to Lamar's contract, right? It's all anybody, in the world wants to talk about. It's this overwhelming thing. Does that impact an organization, a franchise at all? Is there any day-to-day impact as far as getting ready for a game, getting ready for a season, doing things in practice that is even remotely impacted by the fact that this thing hangs over the team as a whole?
Well, I think there are certain players. Well, look what's going on in Chicago with Roquan Smith. It can be a problem for some players. Roquan basically saying, trade me today because we can't get this done. We've been talking for a long time. He's kind of frustrated now. So, yeah, it's impacting that football team. He's going to be their starting weak side backer. But in Baltimore, it doesn't, at least from the organizational standpoint and from Lamar's camp, there hasn't been any animosity. There hasn't been any back and forth like what between Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Kyler was his representation. Remember, they basically proposed a contract. Well, it doesn't really go that way. It's the team that proposes it to you, so they got to present it. You don't present it to them. They'll present it to you, and then you kind of go from there. But that doesn't seem to be the situation here in Baltimore. I'm not saying Lamar Jackson has a laissez-faire attitude about it, but he truly feels, or at least to me, he's at peace. He's at peace, almost betting on himself, much like Joe Flacco, that if we get it done now, great. If we get it done at the end of the year, it's only going to be more. Of course, he's at risk of injury, which is the big bugaboo that why he should be motivated for this contract. And then, of course, you got the Deshaun Watson impact on it. I mean, Steve Bisciotti was clearly, and a lot of owners were clearly upset about that deal for Deshaun Watson.
Right.
Yeah, because, that it's never been done before, and it affects their situations tremendously. And so we'll see what the number they come in at. They got it done for Kyler. I think Baltimore is going to do the right thing for Lamar, too, because they know how special of a player he is for this organization. So, but again, it's really up to Lamar. I'm sure there's something on the table and that Lamar has to agree to, or they're going to continue to work towards, and he should be motivated to do that prior to the season. But, you just don't get that sense of urgency from him. It seems like he truly would bet on himself, and he's fine playing the way things currently are.
And to the point about the injury, everybody brings up, hey, Dak Prescott still got paid despite being, we have examples of that. The Alex Smith injury is so rare. The thing that, truly alters and ends your career is so rare that it's not a great risk. The thing that jumps out to me, Jim, is I don't really understand why Lamar's signing up to play for $23 million this year. That's not market value.
Yeah, but here's the thing is, I don't think Baltimore's panicking either.
Right.
Because Baltimore's saying, hey, we're not going to be pressured into doing this Lamar or this Deshaun Watson deal. They don't feel any pressure because they've got two franchise tags that they can wait to slap on them. They're fine with that. So instead of paying $40 million, they'd be playing under market. They'd be paying about $30 million. So I don't think from Baltimore there's no sense of urgency for them because they want to see more from him. Like you said, they want to see a more consistent passer. They want to see a quarterback that lines up for 17 games. He needs to do more from their standpoint. And you want to know what? I think Steve Bisciotti puts his money where his mouth is because when he did that for Flacco, he said, I will make Joe Flacco the highest paid quarterback in the league. And I think if Lamar does that, he'll be paid just like Joe Flacco, and he will be rewarded for a proven deal.
Jim, before I let you go, you brought up the defense. Let's go back to that side of the ball if we can. The Ravens have, in their recent history, prioritized the secondary and decided to build that way in. And we saw once again them go to safety with their first pick in the draft this year and Kyle Hamilton. The question has been about edge rush and getting after quarterbacks post Terrell Suggs because – the thought was that Wink Martindale could scheme that type of pressure. It's not Wink Martindale anymore. And, I think a lot of people are excited about David Ojabo, but we know he's definitely not going to be there at least at the start of the season. We saw a couple of signs from Odafe Owe last year that maybe he could become that guy. How concerned would you be about edge rush as a whole with the Ravens, particularly, not having the scheme thoughts that Wink Martindale did in order to get that pressure home?
Yeah, I do think Mike McDonald, they've always been a big blitz zero team. Even when Dean Pease was here as the DC, I just think there's a lot of blitz zero. It's always come from that. And I think, Coach Martindale kind of got caught in that a little bit. You didn't have the horses to do it last year when you're down to your fourth and fifth stringers, essentially, is how I viewed it. And I think they will, and they'll get healthier as the year goes on. I think the young kid from Michigan is going to be a really good player when it's all said and done. You've got the veterans there. They are trying to get younger, but I think Mike McDonald, when you looked at him even last year at Michigan, he deals in exotics as well, but it's just not all blitz zero. He'll do some blitz zones, things like that, where you've got safety valves that are in place that are in position to make tackles. They're still, to me, they play their Raven style of football. They're going to be hard-nosed. I don't think that's going anywhere from Coach McDonald. He's experienced it as a coach there previously, and he kind of knows the standard of what it is to be a Baltimore Raven. So I even like late signings that they made in the back end of the secondary when you sign a guy like Kyle Fuller, because I cover the Bears.
Yeah.
And that Kyle Fuller is a really good player. He had he got benched last year in Denver because he was kind of out there doing his own thing, which can't happen. But he's a solid player in a good corner, and I think the depth is much better served this year for the Baltimore Ravens.
He is Jim Miller. Jim, what can everybody expect coming up at 5 o'clock today on Sirius XM NFL Radio?
Well, we're going to hopefully see a padded practice. I don't like doing these training camps when you can't see them in pads. It's hard to schedule a day. Like yesterday, we didn't get to see the Redskins in pads, but hopefully today that'll be the case for the Ravens. Yeah, certainly I'm going to be studying Lamar. We'll get to talk to Lamar. I want to know what he specifically has worked on mechanically here this offseason in order to improve himself. I'm going to be checking out the young players. Not that this team needs a lot of young players to play. Certainly Linderbaum, who you mentioned, he would have been the starting center. We'll have to see where it goes with this foot injury. But that's, he's really the lone rookie that's going to get significant playing time along with Kyle Hamilton, who will be rolled in there. But they won't really have to count on their rookie players. This is a veteran team, and they feel that they're going to make a push. And I think it's the second toughest division in football. After the AFC West, I think the AFC North is really going to be a bloodbath. I really do. These teams are going to get after each other, and they're all well built. Everybody's kind of counting out Pittsburgh. I'm telling you, on the camp tour, they're the only team that goes totally live when they have pads, meaning
interesting
from snap to tackle, because they believe in tackling. They believe their corners need more work, and that's why some of the corner play around the NFL has really been lacking in terms of the tackling ability, because nobody does it in camp anymore. Well, the Steelers are the only one. They do it, they'll be ready to play.
Very interesting. At Jim Miller _NFL, how you follow him on Twitter. Jim Miller, always appreciate taking the time, man. Enjoy this quick stop here in Baltimore today. Thank you for doing this.
All right, guys. Always good to be with you.
Jim Miller, Sirius XM NFL Radio with us here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time for us. We'll just keep rolling along. Griffin, go ahead and give Jason Reid a call. And programming note, Ryan Ripken's going to join us a little bit later on in the 11 a.m. hour, so we'll move some things around today as things go. That's the way when we do live shows, these things happen, man. We what's Bob Haney always say? Improvise and adapt. That's the way that things work, and so we will continue to do that here this morning. All right, today's show also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. It is the place to be for football season, getting your bets in on those 61 self-service kiosks, and bet pads are coming, so you won't even have to get off your duff. You'll be able to get all your bets in right there at your seat, at your table, whether it's Ravens games, Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday night, whenever it is, you want to be in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Email events@sportssocialmd.com right now to reserve your spot. The book is available right now. It's called The Rise of the Black Quarterback, and it's got an entire chapter dedicated to Lamar Jackson. It is great to catch up with Jason Reid from ESPN, who joins us right now here on GCR. Jason, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you again, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me.
Jason, you and I talked a little while back, and it was interesting because you made a point that I hadn't thought about. For everything that Lamar Jackson had to deal with, it wasn't the same thing that a Cam Newton had to deal with in the draft process. It wasn't the same thing that Michael Vick had to deal with. In doing this, can you put your finger on why? Because in recent weeks, here it is, right back, the anonymous defensive coordinator running his mouth, things like that. We still see all of this absurd criticism of Lamar Jackson. Can you fathom why it has been even more unique? Not to say that, clearly, as you point out in the book, plenty of black quarterbacks have been through this. But what has made it so unique with Lamar Jackson?
Well, Cam was such a freak of nature. Look, Lamar is an incredible athlete, the greatest dual threat quarterback, I think, from a from a running and speed standpoint, I mean, I know we all think of Michael Vick, and obviously for good reason, but Cam was a freak of nature, okay? And when you look at what Cam's size and the things that Cam could do, Lamar. When we think of Lamar, we think of the fact that the Heisman Trophy coming out of Louisville finished high the next year, as the year that he didn't win it, but he wasn't just this freak of nature like Cam was, where you can see Cam playing in the pocket and taking hits, even though Cam obviously is a great dual threat quarterback as well. I just think the things that surrounded Lamar, questions about his accuracy, questions about the way Louisville played as opposed to what they could project Cam would be able to do. So I mean, you look at it, they were just such different players. Like, no one was talking about turning Cam into a running back. Okay, I mean, at anything, Cam's size, you probably would have had to turn him into a tight end if that was the discussion that was going to be had. So I just think that the narrative around Lamar was so different because Lamar is so different. And I think the accuracy thing, people talked about that going into the draft. That was one of the things that Bill Polian talked about when he made the comments about Lamar changing positions, was that he didn't have the accuracy. So, there's just so much around Lamar since the beginning has just been so different than anyone else.
Is it, Jason, simply, I think I've told you this before, a well-meaning white person, I like to hope, I do admittedly try to hope that not everything is just racism, right? Like, I know better, but it's like I want to believe that we are better as a society. When you see the comments from this defensive coordinator in The Athletic a couple weeks ago, is there any other way to explain? I mean, like, all of the things that are being brought up have been disproven time and time again by Lamar Jackson at the NFL. There is nothing left to hang on to. There's valid criticism of Lamar. You can say, hey, he didn't play well against the Blitz for 4 games last season. But the can't throw, the Ravens can't win if he has to throw, all of that crap has been so thoroughly disproven, it would be like saying Justin Tucker can't kick. But yet here we are, and it still comes out. Is it just racism? Is there something else that, like, it's just impossible for people to let go of opinions that they held? Like, how do we explain something like that?
Well, I say this all the time, since I've been talking about the book, that, like, there has never been a better time to be a black quarterback in the NFL. These guys have the biggest contracts. I mean, not Lamar, obviously. He's still waiting to get his. But, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray have the biggest guarantees ever. These guys are the face of franchises. These guys have power that was once unfathomable to believe that these guys could have. These guys, meaning these elite black passers. But, as we saw with The Athletic, there's this coded language. And, look, clearly there's been immense progress made. You can't argue otherwise. But progress is not perfection. And there is coded language still out there. And a lot of it revolves around Lamar. And, we talked about The Athletic quote. Part of that quote was he could win 12 MVPs and he wouldn't be a tier 1 quarterback.
What is that?
Well, that's ridiculous.
Like, what?
I mean, if he wins 12 MVPs, right? I mean,
he's the greatest quarterback of all time at that point. Like, what?
Yeah. So, but again, much of this is because of the way the Ravens played. They, as you know, I don't have to tell you this, they tore down that offense, the stuff that they ran primarily when they, won a Super Bowl with Flacco, and Flacco was the guy, and they built it around Lamar. And they don't play like any other team. And so there are going to be people moving forward until Lamar wins a Super Bowl. I really feel this way. Unless Lamar wins a Super Bowl, no matter what the metrics say about how he passes under pressure, no matter what he did in Week 5 last year against the Indianapolis Colts, it's not going to matter to a very big part of the NFL. Lamar is going to have to win a Super Bowl, and you know what? Even if he does, there's still going to be those people who say, "Yeah, but."
Right. Of course. The Rise of the Black Quarterback is available right now. We're going to link it up on our Twitter, @Glenn Clark Radio. Jason Reid from ESPN is with us here on GCR. Jason, the other thing that jumps out at me, and I know that the book is about way more than Lamar, and I promise that running quarterbacks are not at any greater risk of getting hurt than pocket quarterbacks are. And in fact, when Lamar Jackson got hurt, it was when he was in the pocket and not when he was downfield and using his speed. And it seems like the outside noise has almost impacted him. And he said, well, no, I can't do that anymore. I need to show everybody how great of a thrower I am and that I can throw the ball 40 times a game and things like that. And it's wild to me because it almost feels like it's neutering him a little bit. Like, you have a skill set no one else has ever had. And it's concerning, and maybe I'm crazy, but it's concerning to me that the crap, the stuff that's constantly spewed about Lamar might literally have an impact on the player himself.
Well, I mean, look, I can't get in Lamar's head, but I will say this. For Lamar to be the player he is, he needs to play the way he plays.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that sounds very simple, and some people might be listening to this and thinking, well, that's an oversimplification. Well, no, but I mean, it's just a fact. Like, you know, Lamar can't play like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes can't play like Lamar. Dak Prescott can't play like Lamar. Lamar can't play like Dak Prescott. These guys have to do what they do that enables them to be the elite players that they are. I would hope that this is not something going through Lamar's head. I would hope that Lamar is not, you know, overthinking this to please other people, because you can't succeed like that. I do believe that there will always be people, you know, as we're talking through this, there will always be people who look at Lamar and will have a feeling about the traditional way to play quarterback and not be accepting of what the Ravens do. I believe the Ravens are 37-12 with him under center.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, he has a league MVP award, only the second quarterback, other than, you know, Tom Brady being the other, to win it unanimously. I mean, we can have a lot of conversations about where Lamar is in terms of the drop back game, but we can't have a conversation that this guy isn't effective. And yes, he does it differently, but differently does not necessarily mean bad.
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, maybe better. Maybe it's better if you have a player who can both be a really dynamic thrower of the football and also a unique weapon in running the ball. Maybe it's better than what other quarterbacks have looked like in the past. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Jason Reid, the book. Take me through. We know you did the Year of the Black Quarterback series a couple years ago. Take me through the concept for the book, telling everyone's individual stories, why it was something that mattered so much to you.
Well, I mean, for me, I've always been interested in history, and you have this league that 1920 was just this, you know, this thing that wasn't in any way the national sport that it is now. It wasn't in any way the 800-pound gorilla that it is now. And for me, what I found interesting was, how did black quarterbacks, the most marginalized group in the history of professional sports, most powerful and successful league, how did these guys go from being what they were to now this group that, you know, has the biggest contracts, is at the top of the game, is celebrated by fans? So I really wanted to take a look at, how did this journey, which is now more than 100 years in the making, how did this journey take place? Who are the key people who helped to move the ball along, and really understanding like how could this even happen? I mean, like, what, like, you have these players fell at the most important position. So it really was because, look, I obviously entered into this book having somewhat of an understanding about the issues that I wanted to discuss. I approached it like, look, let me look at this like I know nothing about what has happened with this situation. And, you know, 70 to 75 interviews and about 88,000 words later, we have our Rise of the Black Quarterback, what it means for America.
At Jay Reid, ESPN on Twitter is how you follow him. Pick up Rise of the Black Quarterback right now. We've linked it up on our Twitter at Glenn Clark Radio. Jason, I've really enjoyed the book. Thank you for taking the time for us. I promise next time we talk, it won't just be about me screaming about people complaining about Lamar Jackson, all right?
No, don't apologize for talking about Lamar Jackson. It's one of main storylines in the NFL this season, what's going to happen with this contract situation,
No doubt.
I can always talk about Lamar Jackson.
Well, we'll do it again then for sure. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Anytime.
Jason Reid joining us here on GCR. Rise of the Black Quarterback available right now. It's so befuddling. I will never be able to just deal with it. I get it. I tell you to ignore as much of it as you possibly can, but it still makes no sense. And the reason why it bothers me is because genuinely in watching him play, and I have run this by people who would know, and it's why I have run this by, hey, does it seem like Lamar is trying to run a little bit less himself? Like he's purposely, and the people whose opinions I respect and who would have a feel for this have not shot that down. Like, it really has felt like he has been impacted by all of the outside crap. Well, I want to prove that I can be what they... No. Stop that. Stop worrying about what quarterbacks are supposed to look like or what you're used to. Be the most dynamic weapon the NFL has ever seen. Be that guy. Revolutionize the way the quarterback is played. Which isn't to say that there'll be more Lamar Jacksons, because I think it's totally possible. He's just that, he has that unique of a skill set. Who cares? And that's why it concerns me. That's why it bothers me, is because we have to rewrite these narratives. There is nothing wrong with a quarterback running as much as Lamar Jackson does. It's the opposite of that. What would be wrong would be for Lamar Jackson to run less. It would be insane. Imagine, Aaron Judge, you need to be more of a singles hitter. We can't do this. This thing where all you do is ever hit home runs, we got to stop that. You got to be a singles hitter. Bull ass. Or imagine, going the opposite way, telling Tony Gwynn, hey, man, know you're really good at getting hits and getting on base, but until you prove you can be a 40 home run guy, you're not that great. Sorry. You're just not what we need. It's bonkers. We are so screwed up in how we view the quarterback position that we are incapable of understanding what makes Lamar Jackson so great. Hour number 1 of today's show is in the books. I got a bunch of stuff. I got a hit list of topics that I wanted to get to today. So we're going to go rapid fire. Think of a sounder that you can do. Just come up with just think of something.
Okay.
Think of something. You can do the sounder. Kyle used to spin the wheel. That used to be when we would have a segment like this.
Oh, okay.
He used to spin the wheel, right?
With his he'd make the noise.
He would make the noise.
Okay.
Like what it would sound like if we spun a wheel and
Okay.
then the topic came up, right? So we're going to spin the wheel when we come back in. I want you to think about what it would sound like to have a spinning wheel, like if it was The Price is Right or something. All right? So we're going to do that when we come back in. Lots of things that I want to get to related to the Ravens, related to, I mentioned Serena Williams earlier, all of those things. I want to get to all of them. And Ryan Ripken going to join us as well. All that coming up. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Summer is in full swing, and so is the summer seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash fried pork belly with their popular Korean No. 2 sauce. And try their South Carolina barbecue chicken, or backed by popular demand, the lobster roll with grilled corn. Also try the irresistible crab and lobster fries, or the very berry salad with chicken. And for dessert, the Cracker Jack sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jacks. This menu will be gone. Find out more and get your order in at glorydaysgrill.com. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Visit Howard County presents the 2022 Major League Quidditch Championship, a Harry Potter-inspired, real-life, full-contact, mixed-gender, 12-team Quidditch tournament happening at Troy Park in Elkridge, August 20th through the 22nd. For tickets and more information, go to visithowardcounty.com. Maryland, be open for it.
Don't forget that full episodes of the show are available for free on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. But warning, you get what you pay for. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on GCR. Today's show is also brought to you by the print issue of Press Box. We are in the final week for you to pick up the Salute the Coaches issue of Press Box. It's available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com, but this is it, your last chance before it's gone, daddy gone, making way for a football preview issue, which will hit newsstands next week, featuring Ravens tight end Mark Andrews on the cover and a great cover story from Bo Smolka, as well as a lot of college football preview content in there. That'll be available next week. So this is your final chance to get the Salute the Coaches issue with John Harbaugh on the cover and 8 other pro college high school coaches from the area, all recognized inside. All right, Griffin, it's time to spin the wheel.
Are you ready?
Yes.
You gonna give it a
No. You
spin?
spin the wheel.
Okay,
You
ready?
spin the wheel. Yep.
Tick 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 tick.
I want
tick,
see
tick,
I want more
tick,
noise
tick.
sounds. I want more like stuff like that.
Okay.
Than words. All right.
All right. Ready?
Uh-huh.
All right. What we land on?
Okay. All right. Very good. First thing we landed on is Justin Tucker getting a contract extension.
Let's go.
What do you want me to say? Okay. We think the Ravens are just gonna let him go somewhere else? I mean, I'm not trying to be dismissive of it. I get it that everybody likes seeing it, but there's nothing to say. There's no news there. It's formulaic. Justin Tucker got his contract extension. Cool. Now what?
Now we sign Lamar Jackson.
Well, yes, that would be the important part. That's the one that actually matters. But I mean, I'm not. Great. I don't know what else there is to say. I always feel very weird whenever something like this happens because I get it. It is news because it occurred, but that's the only thing that makes it news. There's literally no take to have afterwards. Guy who's the best ever at what he does is going to keep doing it for your team. Yay! Hooray! Now someone might say, hey, even if it's not an extraordinary amount of money, when you have to pay your kicker real money, it's going to cost you somewhere else. I don't know if you've seen. He's Justin Tucker. He won you a game last year in Detroit by himself. You pay that money. You figure those problems out when you can have the greatest kicker of all time. Then there was this weird bit that was going on last night. There's a longtime NFL writer named Sharian Williams who's written for Pro Football Talk and I think it was the Morning News in Dallas. I mean, she's a Hall of Fame voter. She was a very well-respected football writer who was trying to push back because the NFL on Twitter shared, is Justin Tucker the greatest kicker of all time? She said, he'll have to make some kicks in the postseason that lead to Super Bowls and win Super Bowls to surpass Adam Vinatieri, but yes, he's in the conversation. So I'm not trying to embarrass this lady. She is a respected NFL writer. The fact that she doesn't know that Justin Tucker made kicks that led the Ravens to winning a Super Bowl is is quite odd. I don't know if it's just like her memory is foggy or something, or like if she specifically doesn't think it counts unless you made a kick in the last 30 seconds of a Super Bowl, in which case there are guys not named Adam Vinatieri who have done that I don't think anyone would consider the greatest kicker of all time. It's just a very weird I assume that like she just had a fog go over her brain, that she doesn't remember the fact that Justin Tucker was a rookie in 2012, which kind of made it all the more amazing that like when they needed a kick in double overtime in the freezing cold in Denver in order to beat the best team in football that year, he did it.
A rookie from Texas comes in.
Yeah, I mean, that makes it even more odd, I guess, given where she's based out of. And then like she doubled down on it though after everybody kept calling her. Like this is the problem, is that sometimes it's okay to just say, "Hey, I screwed up." I still think Adam Vinatieri is a hell of a kicker, and I'm not sure that it's like there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, Adam Vinatieri made a lot of clutch kicks." I'm not sure that it's a slam dunk to me that Justin Tucker is the greatest kicker of all time, right? Like you can just say that, but you have to acknowledge the part where like, "Hey, I screwed up here. I completely forgot about what happened in 2012. It happens to all of us. It's so easy to just say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I screwed up. I made a mistake. I forget about things constantly. My brain barely works. It happens to all of us. We all make mistakes. But the thing where we try to double down on it, she follows it up. As somebody points out, like somebody else who's a football writer named Marcus Mosher, he already surpassed Vinatieri, and I'm not sure it's close. To which she follows up, what's his signature kick? He's 14 of 18 in the postseason, not even 80%. His misses have all been 40 or longer, nonetheless. And again, those of us that know that those numbers are skewed by that insane game that occurred in Buffalo in which the ball couldn't move. It's one of the most insane weather games we've ever seen in the history of football. But that said, what's his signature kick? Well, maybe the greatest kick in the history of football. Definitely the longest kick in the history of football. What's his signature kick?
It's not even like it was like at the end of like halftime.
No,
like you're going into halftime.
It was literally with a game. It wasn't even a game that you could have gone to overtime and won anyway.
Right.
It was win or lose on his foot. And this is the other problem, too. And I mean there's no disrespect to Adam Vinatieri, who did make big kicks, but we can't pretend like these kicks were 55-yarders that he made in Super Bowls. Like, it's a very weird bit. I just don't know what happened here, and I know I should just ignore it, but she's a respected writer, and I just would say it's okay to say, hey, I might have screwed this one up. You can still have the opinion, hey, I think Adam Vinatieri was really good, too. I don't know. I would lean far closer to Marcus Mosher that objectively, not even like here in Baltimore because he's here, objectively all of the numbers would say there is no debate any longer. We know who the greatest kicker of all time is. There's no room. Adam Vinatieri was a damn good one who also deserves to be in the Hall of Fame if we're letting kickers be in the Hall of Fame. And we are because Morton Anderson got into the Hall of Fame. So if we're letting Morton Anderson in, clearly Adam Vinatieri is worthy of it. But I mean, talk to anyone. James Lofton thinks that Justin Tucker should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I mean,
James Lofton wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. And he played a real position. No offense. I want to make that abundantly clear. Just a really weird hill to die on. Like just a very strange hill to die on. To instead just say, hey, I might have screwed that one up. I'm sorry. That first tweet, I might have screwed that one up. And to keep trying to double down on it. It's so weird. Very weird bit. All right, spin the wheel.
all right. All right, what we land on?
Tyler Linderbaum.
Oh.
Next on the hit list. Tyler Linderbaum. So
Oh, don't say hit list. That's scary
No,
now.
it's all
Yeah,
right.
especially talking about this topic.
So we brought up the report yesterday from Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo that it was a reoccurrence of a Liz Frank injury. And then John Harbaugh goes to the podium and is like, he's doing his best Lee Corso impression. He's like, not so fast, my friend.
I guess the Ravens are just going to do that to Rappaport this season whenever he says
Yeah, I
something.
mean, right? Well, in fairness, look, J.K. Dobbins was back on the practice field yesterday. I guess we could have put that in the on the wheel too. But yes, J.K. Dobbins is back. It seems abundantly clear he's going to be ready to go for week 1 of the NFL season. I mean, barring a setback, of course. Right. We do have to say that, but we're a month out. We're We're literally a month and 2 days away from there being a football game, and he's back on the practice field. It seems like J.K. Dobbins is probably going to be good to go for week 1. And so, you know what? We should apologize to him and probably to God, too. All right? Should also apologize to God. John Harbaugh says that's not true. There's a ligament, but it's not that ligament. He continues to think it's a couple of weeks for Tyler Linderbaum. Clearly, there's a big difference in whether the guy could be ready to go for week 1. I guess the only question would be, if he continues to be sidelined, is there some world in which even if he could be back for week 1, you don't want to put him out there for week 1 just because you're not sure exactly how ready he is and exactly how comfortable he is with Lamar Jackson, that you want him to have a certain amount of work with Lamar Jackson to make sure it doesn't end up being a disaster when it's on the football field. I guess that would become the only question if it's only going to be another couple of weeks. There's still so much sort of weird gray area here. Again, I keep going back to this. Ian Rappaport doesn't make stuff up. Now, that doesn't mean, as I always say, there isn't room. It might very well be that with J.K. Dobbins, Ian Rappaport had heard from somebody, hey, we're not sure. We're just not sure. And that might very well be exactly what the Ravens were feeling at the time. So when J.K. Dobbins showed up and looked great and was hell-bent, then they got their answer. Okay, now we're sure. But at the time, which was before camp began, their answer just might have been, we're not sure. And that was all that Ian Rappaport reported. It would be weird for him to report Liz Frank if it's definitely not Liz Frank. Like, that's very odd. Could it be that someone that he got information from within the organization just simply kind of had that wrong, like knew it was a foot, and so kind of said it was a Liz Frank? And it's very weird in there. I also am reminded, and my buddy Ken Zales is very good at reminding me of this, the Ravens are not always the most upfront and most truthful when it comes to injury things. So even what John Harbaugh says at a podium, there's only so much that I can take from that. I'm going to have to just say it's something that's up in the air until we know. And we don't like having things up in the air. We like to have comfort in things, and particularly with Ronnie Stanley being up in the air at the same time, right? Like the idea that 40% of your offensive line is completely up in the air as the season, is approaching, that ain't a good feeling. But a reminder, we are still, as I just said, a month and 2 days away from any games being played that actually matter. So I'm going to choose not to be panicked about it. We can revisit this after the final preseason game, see if Tyler Linderbaum has gotten back on a practice field by that point. If he has, then you're probably good to go for him in week 1. If he hasn't, then, obviously it becomes more concerning then. Spin the wheel.
All right, what do we land on?
Roquan Smith has requested a trade. And as always the case, whenever a player that we have heard of is attached to the trade market, the first thing that everybody does is say, well, the Ravens should go get him. I understand. And don't get me wrong, I think Roquan Smith is a damn good football. I remember how badly I wanted Roquan Smith when he was in the draft that year. I was heartbroken when it became clear that he was not going to last to the Baltimore Ravens. Roquan Smith is a monster. Roquan Smith is a game changer. Roquan Smith is, he ain't Ray Lewis, but he's that. Like I always said, the difficulty about drafting an inside linebacker so high in the draft is they've got to be a wrecker. They can't just be a good football player. C.J. Mosley was a good football player. But when we think about C.J. Mosley in Baltimore, we're kind of disappointed by it because we remember he wasn't as good as they needed him to be against the Pats. We remember his weaknesses. And because there's only so much you can do as an inside linebacker, you have to make game-changing plays in order to stand out as someone who is worthy of being selected with a top 20 type of pick in the NFL draft. I like Patrick Queen. I think Patrick Queen last year showed some serious signs of developing into the player the Ravens wanted him to be when they selected him. I think there was a lot of positives, particularly after he moved positions from Patrick Queen. I'm not telling you there's no world in which I would trade for Roquan Smith. I love Roquan Smith. Does it make sense for this franchise right now? No, probably not. Probably not. The cost, even if the Bears are willing to entertain, just because someone requests a trade doesn't mean that the team has to trade them. Although I get it. Normally when these things happen, they lead to breaks. Not always. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, we had put on every team in football. As it turns out, he's still a Packer. But normally when these things happen, I get it. They kind of tend to lead to a break between the player and the team. So I understand why we think that Roquan Smith requesting a trade will lead to him being dealt. Will he? We don't. I don't know. I love Roquan Smith. I love him as a football player. I just think he is a monster, a wrecker. But I don't see there being a price that's worth being paid by the Ravens as far as draft pick compensation is concerned, and then the price that you'd have to pay in order to sign Roquan Smith on top of it. I just don't see it being. I can say that's the type of thing when a wide receiver becomes available, I say yeah, because the Ravens have desperately needed wide receivers. I do still trust their ability to find inside linebackers that can play, maybe not at a Roquan Smith level, but at a high enough level at a position that isn't the most important position on the football field. I'd love to have a game changer there, but I think you can get by with players who are good football players. I think you can survive that way. And the Ravens in their history have done a really good job of finding good obviously they've also found, the greatest of all time. Arguably, I mean, I don't want to piss off Shereen Williams. Arguably the greatest of all time. Yeah, I know ESPN recently named him the greatest of all time. But they've also found really serviceable players as well, undrafted, the guys off the scrap heap. L.J. Fort a couple years ago.
Josh Bynes.
Josh Bynes again. Josh Bynes again. So I sort of trust that they can get by at the position. And I like the trajectory that Patrick Queen was on as he made the switch. So yeah, I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
I mean, what's the price? Smith. Likely, they're going to ask for a first.
Of course they're going to ask for it. They're going to ask for it. I mean, they're going to ask for it. Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Spin the wheel. Okay, very good. So, kind of I don't know how much of a story it is because I don't know how much people really care, but the word over the last 24 hours is that ESPN is going to be completely out of the Big Ten moving forward, and that instead the Big Ten package is going to be split up by Fox, NBC, and CBS, which will get CBS back into college football as they're about to lose the SEC entirely, which is a pretty big story, obviously. Like in college football world, CBS and the SEC have been synonymous. The biggest game every week is on CBS. I believe this is the final year for that. I think this is the final year for the SEC on CBS, if I remember correctly, and then it transitions completely to ESPN. I in a weird way, I think it's more impactful for basketball than it is for football because the truth is we're going to find college football games wherever they are, whether they're on Fox, FS1, NBC, CBS. And I'm still trying to do the math on this. It looks like maybe the biggest, like the first choice of games each week will belong to Fox for the noon window. And then the second choice of games would be NBC getting a primetime game. So the other weird part about this is that it looks like CBS is going to go from having the top SEC matchup of the week every week to the third best Big Ten game of the week in their one TV window at 3:30 in the afternoon. So I don't know. There might be more that we learn about that like Fox gets every other week. They get the big. We're going to learn more about how that works. It would be very odd for CBS to go all in on the third best big, like the every week. Now, CBS Saturday college football, Maryland and Iowa. Like, it just seems odd to me.
Nebraska and Indiana.
Sure. And I get that adding USC obviously will help with that because it will create more big games. Like, you'll be guaranteed that you'll get one of Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, USC in your big TV windows every week as you move forward. And the other interesting part is that NBC get involved. With the NBC idea being that they want to have the biggest Saturday night game and then the biggest Sunday night game in the NFL. you wonder if that means that there's movement related to Notre Dame, right? That, like, if NBC's dipping their toes into the Big Ten waters, could Notre Dame be part of that conversation too? So all of these things are very interesting. All of these things are quite compelling. We have to see how it all shakes out. I think the bigger deal is, though, if ESPN's getting out of the Big Ten altogether for basketball reasons, I guess that means the games will all be on Fox Sports 1, Big Ten Network, and CBS Sports Network? I mean, the truth is, there's at this point, you get all of those channels.
We're going to get college football in USA.
I guess it's possible. I think the NBC thing is very specific. They're doing one game. It's a primetime game on NBC on Saturday night. And I don't think they have anything else. I know, like, they had the Ryder Cup, so when they had the Ryder Cup, they would have to bump Notre Dame to USA from time to time, something like that, or Peacock. I don't know. Although, by the way, that's worth pointing out. It might be that NBC getting involved for college basketball reasons. It might be that they're saying we're going to put some of the basketball games on Peacock only. So we'll have to see how that unfolds. It is interesting to me, for sure. It's interesting to me, but I just don't know all the details just yet because it's only come out in the last 24 hours. And one more time, spin the wheel.
Oh, hold on. Will got stuck.
Yuck. Okay. All right. Serena Williams is going to retire from tennis after the U.S. Open. And the only thing I can say about it is everybody knows I'm the biggest Serena Williams fan on the planet. I adore Serena Williams. 30 of the happiest seconds of my life were getting to say hello to Serena Williams when I was at Wimbledon in 2010 or 11. No, 12? Maybe it was 12. I don't remember what year it was now. It's been that long. But thank you, Bryant McKinney, because he made that possible for me. Must have been. Maybe it was after the Ravens won the Super Bowl, so maybe it was 13. No? Because I think I was already engaged when. Whatever. I don't know. Whatever. Moral of the story is I adore Serena Williams. There's two things worth saying. There's no debate about who the greatest player in the history of women's tennis is. The only debate would be who's the greatest female athlete of all time, and I don't think there's much of an argument there either. I mean, I think Serena Williams long since surpassed that. I know and I haven't been able to read her entire piece in Vogue yet, and I will read it. I know this has to be difficult because it was kind of clear that she wanted to win a slam after becoming a mother. Famously, the last slam she won was when she was pregnant with her daughter. So I know that she wanted to win a slam after becoming a mother, and that had to be tough for her to make the decision definitively that she would do this even if it means she doesn't accomplish winning a slam as a mom. The thing from the outside perspective, a lot's been made about the fact that she wanted one more slam, would have tied her with Margaret Court for the most all time. But understand, that's not a real record. She has the real record. 22 was the real number. Margaret Court's number predates open tournaments. It would be like if I, had got, Griffin, John Colson, Carson Weekly together and said, well, we're going to call this the Baltimore Open. And I won it for 5 years because I'm the only one of us that plays tennis. And then in 5 years, they made the thing a grand slam and real players played in it. And I said I was a 5-time winner of the event. And I'm not trying to say that Margaret Court wasn't a very good tennis player. It's just it wasn't anything like this. Those weren't real tournaments. Those were essentially invitationals. That's not a real number. We gotta, when we talk about this, we've got to be capable of saying that. The real number was 22 with Steffi Graf, and she surpassed that number. Serena Williams has the most Grand Slams of all time. The other thing, we wanted her to break because Margaret Court is a garbage human. Because Margaret Court is a worthless, awful toad of a human. A vile human. So we badly wanted Serena Williams to break it because it would be great for that number to just not exist anymore. For us to have more reason to never have to bring up Margaret Court's name. Because she sucks. That's not going to happen. She's not going to win the U.S. Open either. I'll just go ahead and let you know that. Serena Williams is not going to win the U.S. Open. It would be, it would be magical, but it's not going to happen. We have been very fortunate. and the impact that Serena specifically has had on women's sports as a whole, because, and it's something I tell you all the time, there is no sport in which men and women are more on even footing than tennis. They play in the same tournaments. There is no sport that exists, so the fact that she elevated even further has had a major impact on how we viewed women's sports in the last 20-plus years. We have been very fortunate to be able to watch this dominant athlete play at the highest level for as long as she has. As a tennis fan, the sport will be less without Serena Williams around. There's no getting around that. What a joy, what an amazing career, what an impact she has had on the sport of tennis, and look forward to seeing her play in New York in a couple of weeks. One more time. All right, we spun the wheel. We're good. That's it. Let's go ahead and do Tidbit now. Ryan Ripken's going to join us in just a couple of minutes, and then we'll squeeze in Tubular as we can. But let's go ahead and get a Tidbit. Tidbit brought to you today by Glory Days Grill. The opener, the flash fried pork belly with the Korean No. 2 sauce. It is spectacular. You need to try it, and it might not be there forever. That's just the way that it goes. So what you need to do is you need to get to Glory Days Grill right now. You need to go to glorydaysgrill.com in order to get your order in. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
All right. So given that the Orioles rebuild, it's officially over, pretty much. I mean, they're in the thick of this wild card race. We're in August. I think it's safe to say we're pretty much over. They hit 4 bombs yesterday as well, home runs. So that got me thinking about who, during that rebuild, during the dark ages, who was hitting the home runs for the Orioles. So I want to know, from 2018 to 2021, who were the Orioles leaders in home runs? I want to know every single guy that hit at least 20 bombs.
How many of them are there? We might not have time for this.
There was only 12. There was only 12. You can do it.
Davis.
There you go, Chris Davis. 28.
Mancini.
Yes, Trey leads all 80 home runs in that 3-year span.
So
4 year, technically.
What were the 3
years?
years? You're saying
2018
to 2021
through 2021. Yeah.
So Mullins,
technically 4 years.
obviously.
Yes, Cedric Mullins, 37 in that span.
I want to say VR, oddly.
And you would be right. 32 for Jonathan VR.
Who's, like, you don't think of him as a home run hitter, but
Yeah.
he actually had an odd amount of pop in his bat. It makes no sense. Oh, God. Now it gets really dark because I'm trying to just remember. Remembering who was actually here for multiple years. Severino? Not here for multiple years? Was he just here for 1 year?
Wait, was he there? No, he was not. No, he's not here. Oh, there he is. Oh, yeah, 29. 29 for Severino.
This is the difficult part. I genuinely don't
I don't
remember.
even know. I'm looking at it, and I don't even know.
Well, that's not great. If you don't, I certainly don't. Ruiz.
Yes, Rio Ruiz, 24.
Renato Nunez?
There you go. Tied for second with 50. 50 for Renato Nunez.
I want to say Iglesias was only 1 year, though, right?
Yeah, Iglesias. Was he only 2020? I think he was only 2020. So, no, he is not on there.
Austin Hayes?
Austin Hayes, 30. 30 even for Austin Hayes in that 4-year span.
Hanser Alberto.
That's a good guess, but he had 15, so not quite
right, why
there.
don't you grab Ryan real quick, and I'll try to think about this for another second. Trying to come up with the Orioles that hit the most home runs. Oh, God. I'm thinking Mark Trumbo stuck around post-2018. But I'm thinking that. I'm also thinking that maybe I'm All right, hang on a second. All right, we got 4 names left, so I'm gonna go rapid fire as much as I can. Then we'll talk to Ryan Ripken. Mark Trumbo stuck around, correct? So
Trumbo was 17, so he was just in.
All right, just tell me who the other 4 were then.
We got Machado hit 24 during.
Because that's you know what I was about to say that.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking of the guys that were still here in 2018.
We had there's 2 guys that currently on the team that you should get.
Okay, 2 guys currently on the team.
And then
we just got to go. We got to
another outfielder.
No. I mean, we need just tell me.
DJ Stewart, 26.
Okay.
DJ Stewart, 26. I told you Machado, and then Santander, 50.
Right.
And Mountcastle is 4th with 38.
Yeah, those are the ones that obviously I should have gotten earlier on the list because I was just not focusing on that. I was focusing on past Orioles. All right, very good. Have always enjoyed our conversations with our next guest over the years. He has decided it's time to move on and do something else with his life after he's been grinding his way through the Orioles system for a few years, among other stops. He is the pride of Gilman, and I think I still owe him a Pop-A-Shot basketball challenge at some point. He is Ryan Ripken, and he's with us now here on GCR. Ryan, it's Glenn. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Glenn. And you are right, actually, that the shots that we were talking about, I think that was 2019.
Yeah. I think the pandemic.
Don't think I forgot about that.
I think the pandemic really screwed things up, and I think it struck me when I saw that you announced you were retired. I'm like, damn it, I messed this up. We got to make that happen. So this is a promise. Now that we're through it, and now that you got a little bit more time on your hands. We're gonna make that happen. All right, you versus me, Pop-A-Shot basketball. It's coming. All right, we're gonna have some fun with it.
Absolutely.
Great to hear from you, dude. Just take me through. I know it's got to be a tough thing to do. This is a dream that you have. It's what you've done for a long time. What goes into making a decision like this? Particularly, I imagine tougher. Maybe it might have been easier had you at least gotten a call up and you'd put the uniform on and you could say you made it. Not having gotten there, how much more difficult did it make this decision?
Well, it's a culmination of, so many different aspects of your career and your life. I dedicated so much time to chasing my dream of being a professional baseball player, which I accomplished, but then making it to the major leagues. So it is sad that, the second goal wasn't met. But the journey, the process, the relationships I made along the ways, I'm so grateful for. And, again, I wish it would have ended differently, but I realized that it was the time to move on. And the exciting thing now is that, outside of baseball, there's a whole big world. So I'm excited to explore and see where the journey takes me.
You used a couple of words, exhausted and drained. Did you get to a point in your career where it wasn't fun anymore, where it became a job, something along those lines?
Sorry, it cut out a second. So you're saying if it was a job?
I saw two words when you put out the statement. You used words that exhausted and drained. Did you get to a point where baseball just wasn't a joy anymore playing, where it became more of a job at some point?
No, so actually mainly the exhaustion of it is when you finally, for me it was building up, telling people that I was going to retire, and after I posted it, the drain or exhaustion of this is over. I kept training, while I was waiting to see if I would get picked up this year, and I'd spent the last 8 to 9, 10 years just devoting so much time into my craft and work. And I honestly think when it was over, when I finally made the decision, I felt this, it was like this weight was off me, but I was like, man, this whole process was a long one. And one that, definitely, and honestly, I think while I was exhausted too, I was pretty emotional when I had to read it back out loud to my girlfriend to say like, hey, does this sound okay? And you had a lot of feelings, just because, like I was saying, that the beauty of anything you do in life, what I'm experiencing is, one, if you're passionate about something that you love, and then the other part is that the people that you get to experience those passions with. And I met a lot of great people. So it brought back a wave of emotions, during that day.
Ryan, it sounds like, as you describe it, it's important because what it feels like you're trying to make clear is that you don't feel like you wasted time pursuing this dream, that doing this was truly valuable for you and meant the world, playing baseball for as long as you did.
Yeah, anything in life is an experience, and I think I'm starting to understand that as I've gotten older.
Yeah,
good and bad, but for me in this, no, I have no regret, because when you're a kid, if you can say I can go and play professional baseball for a living, yes, we know that the lifestyle in the minor leagues is not as glamorous, and you're grinding to reach higher levels and get to the majors. but I learned so much about myself, and I had so many great experiences that really is at the time that you're able to do this. Because this isn't something I can do when I'm older. You take the opportunity as it comes, and all of those experiences, the good and the bad, really taught me a lot of valuable lessons, from being around people and seeing different parts of the country. But also it taught me a lot of things about myself that I think are going to be really beneficial to me, moving forward.
Is Ryan Ripken. He's with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Is there any thought at all about trying to go make a G League team now? Do you think at all about picking a basketball back up? Or is this definitely, no matter what, the end of the athletic career as far as being a player?
Well, I'll tell you this. I love to be competitive. G League, so I have to finish up a little bit of school, finish up my degree, and so taking care of that now. And I always thought in the back of my mind, should I just try to go, and if I have a year of eligibility, and go try to play somewhere for fun?
That would be cool.
Basketball's such a passion. Yeah, that's such a passion. I don't know if it's in the cards, but it's always in the back of my head. But what I will say, now that the COVID years are behind, basketball is in my DNA, and I'm going to play that and try to play at a competitive level, even if it's just for fun, for as long as my body can hold up.
That's cool. Of course, famously, everybody knows your dad hosted the most competitive basketball games in the history of humanity over the years. Legendarily competitive. I imagine that no matter what you're doing, you're going to continue to do that. And it's when we go see you play, it's going to be, no matter where it is, it matters, is what you're saying. You're going to treat each game you play like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
Oh yeah, it's in my blood that way.
Right.
I grew up where everything felt like a competition, and that's how I want to continue that. And honestly, that's just me. You understand that there's some moments that are just being for fun, but I always think when you have something on the line or you're really competing, the whole experience is even better. So if you're around me, I am going to want to try to beat you.
Oh, man.
That is the goal, even if it's just for fun. That's just how I grew up.
So I'm not like that with a lot of this. Is clearly where you and I are different, Ryan. But I admittedly, and this is why the Papa Shot thing is going to be so great. I had my 7-year-old. We took a cruise this summer, and I swear to God, I took him into the arcade on the cruise ship, and there was a Papa Shot machine in there. And I was sweating. I don't know what it is. I was sweating. I was working through it. So I am very much looking forward to you with that mentality against this will be a lot of fun. This is going to be fun. All right, let's talk about the things that you want to do now. You have this opportunity. You mentioned finishing up school. What else jumps out at you over the last 10 years? Is things are there the things around baseball? Is media something? I know you've jumped in head first to social media, and I know a lot of it's about tequila, but I've seen a lot of other things that you've done on social media. What have you said, hey, this is where maybe I do want to point for a direction for me moving forward?
What's funny about the tequila is I don't think I've really posted too much about it, but a lot of people have reached out to me about it, and it's fun. It's a little thing that another talking point. So I think I will never close the door on getting back into anything with baseball. But for right now, since that's all I've known in my life, I want to explore a lot of different avenues outside of the realm of baseball. So media is something I'm interested in. I grew up and was never very public. I was very private as far as, expressing myself. And now I've gotten to a point where, I just like everyone else, I love talking about sports and I'm an avid fan. And I mean, obviously, I played baseball. I love football and basketball. And, I love just having conversations and connecting with people. So getting into the media aspect for me has been, dipping my toe in the water, and we'll see how that continues to unfold.
It's cool. That's cool. It's a great opportunity, obviously, at this point for you to explore those avenues. The other thing, too, is you have this really unique perspective of having been in the Orioles system for a few years and kind of seeing how things have changed. And Obviously there's a ton of excitement right now with where the Orioles are. Can you speak to seeing how things have changed in recent years and what things are like now and how this has worked, how the Orioles have managed to do this and get to the point where the guys that are at the major leagues, despite the fact that the expectations were so little, are sitting here 5 games over 500 in a game out of a playoff spot?
Well, what a tremendous time for Orioles fans. Why I say that especially is that the expectations for this year. When anything exceeds your expectations, it's exciting. Now, as far as for the organization and things that have changed, they went. When Mike Elias came in and they made the full decision to restart and rebuild, and they wanted to build it from the ground up, they were committed to it. And I think that is the biggest component of this whole process, is the commitment to the plan. And it's going to have to, it's like a leap of faith at the same time, because you want it to work, but you have your reservations and your doubts. But what's been great so far is from the players that were already in the system, that found their role, and guys even at like the major league level, guys that had been there for a little bit from the previous front office, the Cedric Mullins, the Austin Hayes, the Ryan Mountcastles, coming into their own, and then also having some good talent in the minor leagues, and the new draft guys that came in and are starting to figure out. So it's just this combination. And then on top of it, I think the most important thing for this season for the Orioles is, after having so many years of losing and feeling that you were embarrassed and finding more ways to lose than win, they're finding ways to win games. And I told people around, once you learn how to do that, it doesn't matter if you traded away Trey Mancini and Jorge Lopez. You understand that you're going to compete the rest of the year. And whether or not you make the playoffs or not is irrelevant, because you know how to win and you believe that you can win every game. And that is so important for this year as the Orioles finish, but also the confidence going into next year.
I feel like there's this term that we use, Ryan. It's you feel like you have the right to win. And like in an odd way, I felt that about this team, particularly with as many comebacks they've had, that we don't need to just, sort of ball up and go back and, hey, we'll get them tomorrow. Like, no, we have the right to win every game that we played. And maybe that's just some absurd, dumb Papa Shot basketball player thing. I'm clearly I'm not at that level, but is there something to be said for feeling as though you have the right to win every game that you play?
Well, and that's the thing, is once you learn it, once it becomes contagious. And so when the Orioles went on the winning streak and we're getting back close to 500, the belief is that, hey, why not us? We're here. We can win these games. And I think the thing that makes it even more important is that the Orioles were finding ways to come back in games. And so now, later in the season, no matter what the deficit is, if you fall behind early, you have the belief that you can come back and win the game because you did it. It's one thing to understand, this is what you have to do to get back into a game. It's another thing to actually do it. The Orioles have done that time and time again. So now there's really no situation that they're in that doesn't surprise them, and they don't believe that they can find a way to pull it out.
No doubt. You got to spend some time with Adley Rutschman. This guy might somehow have been underhyped, right? Like, he's the most hyped player in the history of baseball, and he's so good that he somehow might have been underhyped. It's insane watching the player he's becoming right in front of our eyes. Can you describe what makes him so special? Obviously, it's a level of God-given talent. There's no question about that. But it just seems like there's something else about this young man that drives his greatness.
Well, he's a high-character guy. He has a great makeup as far as he works hard. He communicates with his teammates and coaches, and he wants to continue to get better. And when you have the talent that he has and you have that combination, it's a tremendous thing to see. I think the thing that has been the most impressive for me with him is seeing the effect it's having on the pitching staff. Take aside the actual offensive talent that he has. When you come to the major leagues, you need to have your catcher be kind of the backbone and be the anchor for your pitching staff. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all that as dominant that the bullpen has been, and even the starting rotation has gotten into rhythm, to see the Orioles pitching numbers continue to increase since Adley's comes up, I think speaks volume to him as even a catcher. So all of that is exciting. And I mean, I don't know the record off the top of my head, but I know that since he came up, the pitching numbers, they've continued to gain confidence, and obviously the team continues to win games.
No, there's no doubt. And he's got like the second fastest pop time getting the ball out in all of baseball. Like, I mean, it's just so much that's insane about this dude. All right.
Got a bright future.
So now here's the important question, Ryan. How you feel about the Ravens going into this season?
Yeah, how about that it's I keep counting the day until opening weekend when they open up against the Jets. I'm excited. I think everyone should be excited. The division's tough, but if you look at what the Ravens endured last year and the success they had until Lamar Jackson went down, you got to feel better with a healthy team. Let's just all hope and pray that the team can come out of the preseason as healthy as possible.
Yeah.
And then if that happens, I think you can feel really good. And honestly, it's a tough schedule. A lot of exciting teams in the AFC. But first and foremost, if the Ravens can take care and win the division games, that'll be win the division first and see what happens. But you got to be excited. It's a fun time to be a Ravens fan and an Orioles fan.
It's by the way, this is about as good of an August as we've had. That stretch between 12 and 16 was pretty good too. But yes, it has been like manna for heaven for guys like me that have to come in and talk about it for a couple hours every day. Dude, first of all, I'm gonna make the Pop-A-Shot thing happen. That's a promise, and we're gonna be in touch.
Good.
I know it's at Ryan Ripken on Twitter, and then Instagram. It's just the same thing, right? At Ryan Ripken.
Yep. They're both the same, just Ryan Ripken, and I try to be active. I'm working on it, so I love to interact with people. So if you want to come and ask me a question, and I try to answer some, I'd love to hear more people's perspectives.
And let me just do this. I'm going to editorialize. I want you to know how much I appreciate what a great dude you've been during your baseball career, and that no matter how many of us idiots just wanted to ask you questions about growing up the son of your father and all that stuff, you put up with all of it, and you were happy to do it. And when you were exceeding, when you were struggling, whatever it was, you always made time, and that goes a long way, man, for us understanding someone's character and what they're all about. So I appreciate that. I'm happy for you that you're at peace as you make this decision, and I promise we're going to be talking more as we move forward. Thank you for doing this morning, man, and congratulations.
I really appreciate the kind words, and I look forward to our contest, and I look forward to the many more conversations we're going to have. So thank you so much for having me, Glenn.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you, man. Ryan Ripken checking in with us here on GCR. Happy for him, as when you get to a point where you can comfortably say, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to do something else, and you can hear his excitement about what's ahead for him in the coming years. Really like Ryan a lot. All right, we're going to make Tubular online only. The Orioles play tonight. That's the only thing that matters.
Hard Knocks is on tonight.
Oh, I don't even remember who it is.
Detroit Lions.
Oh, that's sure.
Can't wait.
Is this the first one tonight?
It is the first one tonight.
Okay, episode 1 of Hard Knocks. And Alec Manoah and Kyle Bradish, 7 o'clock on Masson for the Orioles and the Blue Jays. Everything else you can find at glennclarkradio.com. Thanks today to Ryan Ripken. Thanks also to Jim Miller. And thanks to Jason Reid. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the tab at glennclarkradio.com. We got anything tomorrow?
Drew Forster.
Great. We'll try to do better than that. That'll be our plan. I don't know what happened to Jamie Kaiser. You're supposed to join us today. I'll figure that out. We'll get on that. All right. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Costas Inn, Great 8's Memorabilia. Visit Howard County, the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, and buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Thanks to Ryan at RexSpecs Ryan. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. If you're with us on video, do give us like 1 minute. We'll be right back. If you're with us on audio, do nothing. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. I got to say that part.